This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, we're going to be holding secrets against each other, trying not to let each other know what's going on, because some of us are going to be from the United States CIA. Others are going to be from the Soviet KGB, and those lovable hippies will be there as well. Today, we're taking a look at Secrets. This is the latest hidden identity social deduction game designed by two heavyweights, Eric Lang and Bruno Faidutti. So let's check this out. It's for 4 to 8 players. Let me show you all about it. I'll see you on the other side. In Secrets, it's a 4 to 8 player social deduction game where you're either going to be on the CIA side, the Russian KGB side, or the hippie side. These are the actual tokens that are given to you to keep your secret role. They're really big and chunky. Cool idea there. Now here we have, say, a 6-player game set up, and if you're on the CIA team at the end of the game, you want to have the most points between all your team members. Same for the KGB. You want to try to have your teammates and you have the most points. If you're on the hippie team, you want to have the single least points in the game, if so you win. And in some player counts, there'll be more than one hippie, and you're still trying to be on your own and have the least amount of points to win the game. Your role is going to be hidden after you first look at it, and you won't be able to see it unless a card tells you otherwise. So at the beginning of the game, each player is going to get one of these in front of them, and there'll be one in the middle of the table. Everyone gets to look at their own role once and then place it down. They cannot look at it again for the rest of the game unless a card tells them, and there will be one in the middle. In this case, we're playing with 6 players. If you're playing with 5 or 6, you actually get to look at the identity token to the player to your right. In 7 and 8, you get to look at the player on your right's token, and the center one gets flipped so everyone can see it, and then placed face down. On the active player's turn, they're going to take 2 cards from the deck, put them face up. If there's duplicates, they'll put it at the bottom of the deck and keep drawing until they have only 2 unique people. They'll then take these cards and secretly choose one and place it in front of any other player. Now everyone knows it's either the journalist or the detective, so they'll place that card in front of someone. These little help arrows help everyone remember which 2 it possibly could be. The player puts it in front of any one player and says which card it is. They could be lying, they could be bluffing, they could do whatever they want. That player can either accept the card and put it face up in front of them, or reject it. In that case, the player who is giving them and offering the card would have to flip it up and put it in front of them. So let's say the player that was offered the card believed the other player. That player told him it was the detective. The player that was going to get the card already had these cards in front of them from previous turns. They have 5 points with the journalist and double agent. So they believed the player, they accepted the card, it gets flipped over, that player had lied to them, it's the journalist. Anytime you have 2 cards of the same type, they get flipped over, so now that player's just lost points and they only have 2. If it was the only card, they would keep it. Now if it was the other player, the original player that offered the card, if they were forced to take it, same thing would happen. If they don't have it, they keep it, and if they already had it, they flip them over. Now, in addition to that, the card has special abilities that will activate when they're flipped. Now, regardless of if you were able to keep the card or you had to flip it over, you must enact the effect of the card. This one says everybody else gets to look at your secret token except you. Detective says that you can look at any token, one in the middle, an opponent, or your own. Agent, you must swap your token with the one in the center and then look at your new token. These are all mandatory, by the way. The psychiatrist allows you to swap any 2 other people's tokens with each other. The diplomat has you flip over the center token so everyone can see, then everyone closes their eyes, and then you swap that token with the player on your left or right. Politician, instead of placing the card in your display, you put it in somebody else's display, but then you get to look at their secret role. Scientist is worth the most points, and there's 6 of them, but if you ever have 2 scientists, instead of just flipping over the 2 scientists, you gotta flip over every card in your display, essentially having 0 points. The assassin allows you to take a card from the bullet deck, you secretly look at it, it's 0 to -3, you place it face down in front of any other player, and they cannot look at it for the rest of the game. And then the active player would be the one to the left, and you'd keep going. With 4 to 6 players, the game ends as soon as a 5th card of any type gets added in front of your display. With 7 or 8 players, it's the 4th card. At that time, once it's over, everyone flips over their rolls, and then again, if you're the lowest scoring hippie alone, you win. Otherwise, the CIA or KGB team wins as a team if they have the highest points. All right, well, there you have secrets. Now, I typically love social deduction games, hidden identities, so that's the perspective I am coming through here. Now, this game I love that it has simple, streamlined mechanisms. Flip over 2 cards, make sure they're different, offer one, they either take it or don't, flip it, if they're the same, flip them over. That's it. A lot of the game is in the abilities, but you learn those as the game's on. But I love how they cut all the fat out of this game. It's very streamlined, and I love that aspect of it. I like that it has a great balance between the information you know and the information you don't know. I think finding that balance is key to a good social deduction game. You don't want it to be too much of information you don't know, because then it's just hearsay and not a lot of tangible things, and you just can't really go on anything. Where the other way, if you have exact information, then again, it might not be as interesting. But here's great balance of that, where at the beginning you at least know who you are, but as things go on, you won't know who you are. But you can watch, because you're getting like 3 good pieces of information every turn. The person who's getting the cards, well, they're selecting a card, you knowing which card it might be. They are giving it to somebody, that tells you something. They're probably saying what it is, which will give you information depending on what you see it is when they flip it up. And the interactions between these 2 players before, during, and after this turn can really tell you a lot. So every turn, even though you're not involved in every turn, you're watching everything that's happening and making mental notes and helping you deduce what's going on. And as things are changing, you're kind of remembering, oh, they did this back then, something got swapped, and now they seem to be changed. So maybe they are on the same team now. Loved it. It worked really well. It also plays well with even the smallest player count in the box, which is 4. There's not a lot of social deduction games that I enjoy with 4. Maybe, Deception, Murder Hong Kong is one of them. This one actually works well with 4 because, again, what I just mentioned, as the game goes on, again, depending on what order some of the cards come out, you might have a pretty good idea of who's who towards the beginning, maybe getting to the middle of the game. But again, there's enough stuff to throw wrinkles, the good old Bruno Faidutti zaniness of swapping roles and not seeing stuff, that gives enough self-doubt into the game that even with 4, you're not quite sure who is who. I almost can never guess who all 4 people are, even with just 4 players. But on the other end, even with the higher player count, you might think, well, it's going to be way too zany and way too crazy. But the key is you don't really need to know who everybody is. You just kind of need to know at least one player that's on your team, and maybe just one player who's on the other team. And with that, you can do different things and still succeed in the game. I thought that was a really interesting aspect of this. This game is meant to be, and designed well to be, a very light-hearted social deduction game. This isn't going to be one of those super tense, sweating, getting mad at each other. It's going to be one of those ones where you're really just messing around, shooting the breeze, beer and pretzels, messing each other over. Light-hearted social deduction game, and I thought they did a really good job of capturing that. So, any cons for this game? Well, the game is pretty swingy. I mean, you could know what team you're on, nothing's been swapped, you know for sure who you are, you maybe know for sure one other player, you're going well, you think you're gonna win, then maybe before the last card comes out, somebody swaps your role, and you think you're gonna win, you flip it over, and you're something else, and you could go from having a lot of points or none. Or maybe you get the scientist and a bunch of points, someone sticks you with a second scientist you weren't expecting, and you know what, your whole game's pretty much shot. Unless you can swap your roles to become the hippie, hey. But it might be too swingy for some, but again, because it's lighthearted, I think it fits it well. But if you're looking for something that's not swingy, this is, this is probably not the game for you. Also, because it is that lighthearted and really does that well, it's not gonna be very tense. I didn't find this game to be like a super tense social deduction game. Some people love to look for that. Some games of Resistance and Secret Hitler can be so intense and ratchet up the tension, and everyone's waiting on this guy to flip the card, and it can be very tense. This is not that. This is just haha, laugh, flip it over, everyone laughs, and not very tense. I thought it fit the game great, but if you're looking for something that's super tense and serious, this is not it. And also my biggest production problem is the tiles. I loved the tiles. I loved how they were huge, the secret rolls, but I found that they're easily sort of marked, and they're not easily sleeved because they're round, right? They're kind of slates. One of the ones that I had like a tiny little red mark on it just from the factory. And once I've seen that, I can't unsee it for some reason. It's just one of those things. So we've almost been playing, if we play with all the players, that we look at it and then we just put them in our pockets, because I don't want to be able to unsee that and see what's going on. And because of the matte material that it is, you know, if you play with this at all with like anything on your fingers, maybe food, grease, anything, it's easy to see this and it's hard to get it off. So that's my only thing, is maybe they could have made some sleeves or made it a little bit harder to see. It's just the nature of it, but you can always just kind of put it in pockets, which is my workaround. But again, those are the only cons I found of the game, because the gameplay itself is amazing. I love it. If you're looking for a lighthearted, fun social deduction game that plays well with wide range player counts, I'm keeping this in my gaming library. Let's induct it properly with a saxophone serenade.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com.